I am Wes Hagen, and I am the winemaker here. I am making my screen large so I can read everything that is going on over here. I am Wes Hagen. I'm the winemaker for J. Wilkes Wines. I'm the brand ambassador for the Miller Family Wine Company. And welcome to Day Drinking with Wes Hagen. This is show number something like 22 or 23. I have to find out. And John, welcome. You win the prize. You are first. Brian's in the house. Good to see you guys. As always, the best link is always at the J. Wilkes Wine Santa Barbara Facebook page. And I'm really looking forward to talking to you guys tonight. Tonight is going to be probably one of my favorite shows. And Beth is here. Hello, Beth. Welcome. Tonight, we're going to be talking about Santa Rita Hills. So we're going to go a little bit off of sort of the focus of the Miller Family Wine Company. Of course, the Miller Family Wine Company has been farming since 1871, 6 generations deep on the Central Coast. Citrus down in Ventura County, all the way to basically Bien Nacido. Avocados, lemons, oranges, all kinds of amazing produce. Carolyn, yay! I hope everything is good with you. I miss you, and I hope Carolyn was our assistant tasting room manager out in Los Olivos. And when we closed our tasting room in Los Olivos, she went off to do some coffee stuff. Happy Thursday, Barrel Burner Chard in Christie's glass. I love it. Tomorrow, just so you guys know, we are doing a wine club exclusive Zoom hangout. So it's going to be tonight will actually be the last day drinking for the week here on my Facebook page. Starting, let's see, I guess starting, I'm going to actually take a weekend. I was talking to my wife, and we kind of both decided that this whole remote brand ambassador thing, between doing stuff for, basically remote tastings all over the country. I did a thing for Southern Glazers, as I mentioned yesterday, for about 400 people yesterday. So I'm actually staying really, really busy. And my wife was sort of saying, you're probably working as much or more than you did, when you were a road warrior. It's just, you've got roots. So don't just think that because you have roots and you're not traveling, you have to work twice as hard. If you know me, you know that I push. So, Kira, I don't know which it is, but I'm so glad that you're here. And Chris Von Holt is here. So glad to have you. If for some, Phil Carpenter's in the house. So day drinking. So before 5 o'clock, this is a hangout. We're just kind of letting you know what we're going to talk about. And then at 5 o'clock, when I see that 500, we start the program. So tonight we are going to just taste one wine, so you guys know what's going on. This is my last bottle. I don't know if it's the last bottle anywhere, but it's a 2013 J. Wilkes Pinot Noir. And Zach, you can check that out too, brand new. You're brand new. This wine has been around for a little while. And I'll kind of explain where the wine came from. I did not make this wine, but I blended it. And it represents a change in my focus as a winemaker from Santa Rita Hills to Santa Maria Valley. But the irony is, as I will tell you, there is a very strong connection between this wine and my previous life before J. Wilkes, as well as why this wine was so important to my first few weeks here at J. Wilkes in the Santa Maria Valley. So that's kind of my plan for today. We're going to be, I'm going to be drinking a gin and tonic until then, getting all the delicious quinine, which I'm sure has absolutely no effect on my health. But excuse me. Even if it's just making my brain think I could be healthier, that's all wonderful. Karen Bennett is a wise woman, and she is drinking the Pinot Blanc, probably the 2018 Pinot Blanc. I just love that these wines are like going all over the country, and then we're all hanging out. And Megan's here, and Jasper's here. So glad you guys are here, and Nikki's here, one of our Southern Glazers and American Wine and Spirits reps down in the Inland Empire. Puts together amazing winemaker dinners for me, between Highland and Chino Hills. And we really appreciate you, Nikki. I hope everything is well with you. I heard there were some furloughs at Southern today. So I'm hoping that you're still about. You have 4 bottles of the 13 Santa Maria Valley Pinot. Wow. I know some of those wines And good, Nikki. I'm glad you're drinking bourbon neat, because you are one of the few people that I respect that drink liquor because you actually like the taste of liquor and drink it neat. I find it disrespectful to actually blend really great booze. We probably all know the history of cocktails in the United States. You know the history of cocktails? There was no such thing as a cocktail before Prohibition because the alcohol was delicious. The problem was a lot of the alcohol that was produced during Prohibition was bottom shelf. Either some of it had more methanol that was probably healthy for human beings, and it just tasted like crap, and it was poorly distilled, and the stills, the people working the stills had absolutely no scientific knowledge about, distillation, fermentation. At least some of them didn't, and they didn't know how to make their cuts. If you don't know how you distill liquor, you actually take the very beginning, which is called the head, and you discard it. You discard the first stuff that comes out, because that's all. A lot of the stuff that comes out of the still right at the beginning is kind of the most toxic stuff. So you sequester it. I like that word. And then we put it off to the side, and it basically is trash, or you can use it as hand sanitizer. I got offered a half gallon of hand sanitizer today for $30 that is being produced by someone who usually produces rectifying alcohol for us at J. Wilkes. So they're going to all their customers that they sell rectifying alcohol, and that's to make port wine. And it's just basically, 180, 190 proof liquor. They're actually turning it into hand sanitizer and selling it by the half gallon for $30. I think I might buy it. Mark Newman's in the house. Good to have you. And Teresa, so lovely to have you back. Really glad to see everybody. The J. Wilkes 2013 Santa Maria Valley Pinot Noir that Jolie has. Wow, I haven't tasted that wine in years and years. Wow. Yes. So I'm really only one of the Santa Rita Hills. Well, good for you, Jolie, that you kept it 13. I mentioned that I think this wine is going to last at least a few more years. I was basically offering that as a sales aside when I was selling the 13 Pinot. It's been gone for about 3 years. But I will open my last bottle. I might have one more. I'm going to open my last bottle today, taste it with all you fine folk, and then give you guys a little bit of the history of Santa Rita Hills and a little bit of history of myself as a winemaker. Probably won't be a spectacularly long show tonight. I'm guessing we're going to try to make it maybe 40, 45 minutes, but you know how I talk. So we've got Jason is back in the house. Welcome, Jason. Michelle, so lovely to have you back in Gaithersburg, Maryland. By the way, for all you people living in places where the weather, I was talking to my boy John Smalley today up in the UP of Michigan. He woke up to a couple inches of snow on the ground. He had to shovel, and it was a high of 38 degrees today. I didn't really want to tell him. It was 79 today, and it's supposed to be 85 tomorrow, which will make tomorrow hotter than any day last July and August. So in our summer last year, we never went over 81 degrees, and we're expected to go significantly over that. All right, we've got a food question before we get going. It's we still got 7 minutes before the show starts. And Kelly, so nice to have Kelly Wilkes here. If you don't know, Kelly is Jeff Wilkes' sister. And Jeff Wilkes, of course, is the winemaker who made the wines at J. Wilkes for 10 years and passed sadly and tragically in 2010 in December. Food question from Christy. I haven't tried your Pinot Blanc, but do you think that it would pair with a creamy mustard pork chop with mashed potatoes and Brussels sprouts? Yeah, the Brussels sprouts are the tough one on that. I think anything that's creamy, mustard matches deliciously with Pinot Blanc. Brussels sprouts are going to be a little bitter. Little bit of extra butter or maybe some bacon in the Brussels sprouts to make them delicious might help the Pinot Blanc. Pinot Blanc loves salty pork. Pinot Blanc loves anything fried. Pinot Blanc loves anything salty, anything seafoody. I think it sounds like fun stuff. And Phil's in the house. And Phil, thank you so much. I got the book that you sent me today. And, there's something about receiving a book from someone because at some point they're going to be like, so how'd you like the book? I don't like to skim stuff and get back to people. I really want to read this book, Terror, which is the story of a trip to Antarctica, I believe, that's just was made into a miniseries. I think on Amazon or something. So excited about that. 103, Christy. My goodness. 103? Goodness gracious. That is already way too hot. Nice. And Phil's got on the table, he's got the Pecorino Sardo with the 15 Jean Royer Mourvèdre Grenache. That's probably Jean Royer. It's a Grenache Syrah Mourvèdre blend, so an MGS. We could call it a GSM. Le Petit Roi, actually Le Petit Roy. Well, yes, it's almost like the Little King, but Roy has a Y on it, so it would be ROI would be I think the King. So Little Roy, GSM in the house. I hope you're enjoying it. Bacon. Bacon. Shallots always make everything taste better too. I actually prefer shallots to onions or garlic. I just always forget to buy them. Yes. Oh, and Nikki watched Terror. Good job, Nikki. And she gives it a positive review. Thumbs up from Nikki. So that means we're getting a good crowdsourced reaction to the Terror show, and I'm looking at it. Hot buttered popcorn matches with almost anything. And you know what's really good? If you take the butter and warm it up in a pan and drop a couple Werther's candies in it and just like hit it with a whisk, you can get the Werther's all melted in the butter and then pour and then shake it and makes like kettle corn. I usually use a half a stick of butter for like one of my little sort of microwave popcorn. I forget what it's called. It's made out of silicone. It's a really, really cool little thing that pops popcorn in the microwave without using a bag and all the chemicals and crap that's in there. And then we use real creamery butter. I'll usually put 4 or 5 Werther's candies in and whisk it until it's basically this beautiful liquid. Pour that on top of the popcorn, mix the popcorn up, and it's like the best kettle corn you'll ever have. All right. And Gene Taylor, one of my favorite people in between northern Minnesota and North Dakota, just popped in to say good luck with the show. About to start my class up here. Thanks for the notes. I'll be sure to share this with the class and join on another night. Thank you so much, Gene. Gene is an absolute monster saleswoman up in northern Minnesota. And we actually had one of the best days I've ever had selling wine in Fargo, North Dakota. So good job, Gene. Good to see you. And we've got Kelly talking about the Smashberry Rosé with chicken tacos. Hello. It's not Taco Tuesday, but it's close enough. So every day is a taco day as far as I'm concerned. Just drinking so far. Dinner will happen momentarily. I have loved Mexican food with all my heart. Unfortunately, my wife is not as big of a fan. Jesse, one of my favorite Psalms down in Southern California. I hope you're well. So good to see you. And Paul is back in the house, another significant wine geek. Absolutely. Paul Homchick's in the house. So it's good to see all of you. The IE for the Easterners is the Inland Empire, and it's where I went to school at the University of Redlands, down sort of between LA and Palm Springs, down by San Bernardino. So the Inland Empire really starts at Pomona, which Cal State Pomona, great school. And you have, well, if you know, for all you folks that grew up in the same sort of cohort that I did, think about Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure in San Dimas and all those royal ugly dudes and the place that had Raging Waters, which was, when I was growing up, the best water park in the United States, maybe in the world. It was the first super, super high-end water park. So you could argue San Dimas is coming out of the San Fernando Valley into the Inland Empire. The Inland Empire really runs really from Redlands, which on the east side, southeast side, through Riverside, San Bernardino, which no one used to know before, unfortunately, the shooting there. And then all the way up, you know, basically Rialto, where I used to teach high school, all the way up really through, through Pomona. So sort of Pomona to Redlands is where I would call. And interestingly enough, down near Crafton Hills, there is another Yucaipa, and Yucaipa is going to get their own American viticultural area. And I think they're going to do a really good job with Barbera, Zinfandel, maybe some cabs. So there's kind of a region down there and an area down there that it might actually be very interesting to visit and maybe get some wines and show them on the show. That would be kind of fun. All right, bacon cheddar burgers for dinner with some kimchi. Thinking the barrel burner cab. Yes. Kimchi's a little bit weird, that weird kind of funky fermentative character. Normally, if it was just going to be kimchi and someone said, what do you match with kimchi? I would go back to Gruner Veltliner. It's the wine that just won't shut up on this show. It's been on the show 3 nights in a row, and that's probably more than any other wine show in the world. Mark McPhillips or Cheryl or both or Colleen or whoever is watching from Sierra Madre, welcome. And Anthony, so glad to have you guys here. We're going to have a packed house. RN Estates, Santa Rita Hills, Pinot Noir. John is drinking some of that. We got some Smashberry Rosé, got all that. Yes, I got Brett Varner. Yes, University of Redlands Bulldogs. It's going to be great. Remind me, Brett, the wine club hangout tomorrow. We got some more Redlands folks coming out. Sue Schroeder is actually coming out with her wife, and she was a volleyball phenom, and she actually raps. She is actually the best white female rapper I've ever seen, and that's maybe the list isn't that long. It's 5 o'clock. It's time. It's day drinking, folks. We're looking forward to this. We got a full house. We got Ari in the house. Dominic came in just in time with the Pinot Blanc. Thank you on the J. Wilkes Pinot Noir. The 18, I think, is absolutely spectacular. So you know how this works. In between, really, when I'm going to sort of present the wine, we're going to taste it. We're going to talk about it. Then we'll take a little break. I'll go back, answer some questions, see who came on. Doug Humphrey's in the house, and then Ari, who's Josh's better half down in San Diego, is going to be is here. So I will welcome everybody who's coming in a little bit later. The wine for tonight is the J. Wilkes 2013 Santa Rita Hills Pinot Noir. So we talked about 14 sort of yesterday being sort of a regular warm vintage. I would say 13 was a little cooler, and I would say it's another fantastic vintage in the same sort of vein as 5, 7, 9, 11. So 12 was the first year that was an even numbered year that was not atypical in the Santa Rita Hills. So the way I like to explain Santa Rita Hills, from 2005 on, every odd numbered year up to 2015 was an incredible vintage. And 17 was good too. I stopped making wine in the Santa Rita Hills in 2014. So I tasted enough of the 15s to know what a great vintage. And before then, I'd always say if it's the last 7 years and it has an odd number in the vintage, you can buy a Santa Rita Hills wine almost sight unseen, as long as you trust the winemaker. Ken Brown, Rick Longoria, the guys who've made these beautiful Santa Rita Hills wines forever, Greg Brewer, the Melville folks, Montemar. I'll point up to the Steal Your Face, Steve Arrowwood. You are not forgotten, buddy. Still thinking about you. Santa Rita Hills is an incredibly special place. I am proud to say that I was actually the individual who got sort of either kind of fooled into, or I asked to basically write the petition to establish the Santa Rita Hills after we found out that the lawyers wanted to charge us $200,000 for the document. I'm like, my mom's a lawyer. I got a brain. I can write. I'll just kind of figure it out. So I will tell you the secret of how I wrote the Santa Rita Hills ABA, which is actually kind of a funny story. Talk a little bit about the secret of how Santa Rita Hills became STA Rita Hills, which is another really interesting story that revolves around Richard Sanford and a semi-drunken night with a bunch of Chileans. How much better can a story get than basically Richard Sanford in a bow tie, flying to Chile. And then basically the story of how we worked out the Santa Rita thing with Viña Santa Rita in Chile. So it is day drinking time. So I want to know if you are new to the show, what we do is I always want to know what you're drinking, what you're eating, what you're putting together, where you are, what part of the world you're in. I always like to hear that stuff. Jason's in the house. I said I wasn't going to welcome people, but I see people, I get excited. And now that I've said that, Don Ward said hello. So Don, good to see you, brother. Hope everything is good. And I can actually talk at that as I open this 2013 Santa Rita Hills Pinot Noir under the J. Wilkes label. We've only done 2 Santa Rita Hills bottlings under J. Wilkes. One has been 2013 and the other one was 2014. We really focused in on the other wines that we had to sell, and decided, that we couldn't find the best fruit that we could get to wine that would hit at that $30 price point, because we want these to be potentially blended from different sources, like all of our other wines that we can, from different parts of the Santa Rita Hills. I would like something from Santa Rosa Road, the southern part of the Santa Rita Hills, and Highway 246, the northern part of the Santa Rita Hills. But in years where the fruit is hard to come by, it's $5,500 or $6,000 a ton. It can be. And that takes it out. That would make it a $55 or $60 wine. So we do kind of hang out and look for the killer fruit. The fruit so killer, and we get such a good deal on it, we're generally contractually obligated not to tell you where the wine is from. That's why it's appellated. We try to buy as many wines as we can for the best price we can, make the best wine we can. And of course, Santa Rita Hills is something that I've been a part of since the very, very beginning of the appellation. Smells good. So let's go ahead. I am going to put this glass right up here. I was kind of thinking, should I decant? You know what? I'm going to pour the first take right out of the bottle and see where the wine is in its life, how much dissolved oxygen, how it's absorbed. The color looks great. I don't see any bricking. I don't see any overt brickishness to the wine. You can sort of see I would call it a medium to medium minus garnet color. No brickish, no brown. So I'm just going to put a little bit of oxygen in the wine by giving it a nice swirl. Oh, here's a really hilarious story. So when the third time I ever judged wine at the LA County Fair, I was with a bunch of Australians, and Australians love practical jokes, and they love getting an American. They consider Americans to have very poor senses of humor, and they think that we're really sensitive about jokes. So two of the Australians, Nick Goldschmidt and who was the other guy? I was a really, really famous Australian winemaker. It'll come to me. But they were all, they're like, "Oi, Wes, you're swirling your wine the wrong way." I'm like, "What do you mean I'm swirling my wine the wrong way?" "Mate, you must have learned to swirl wine from an Aussie, because that's how we swirl wine in the Southern Hemisphere, mate. You got to swirl it the other way, because the Coriolis effect is going to affect the wine. And when you swirl it this way, you're swirling it against the Coriolis effect, and it's going to have a much more profound impact on lifting the aroma out of the glass, because you are exciting the wine on a molecular basis. Don't you understand, lad?" I'm like, "All right. Okay. All right." So thank you. I should say that Nick Goldschmidt was a New Zealander. So A becomes E. So bat becomes bet. Bet becomes bit. So you just shift the vowels one, and my accent is terrible. I apologize. I'm not a very good actor. But they got me to swirl my wine the opposite way. And me being the weird person I am, I'm like thinking maybe it had an effect. And then I asked 4 wine judges to come over after the last wine and to test a flight of 3 wines and judge the wines blind. And mixed, and we'll switch them. And we had a person switching the wines for us. So one time we swirled them the regular way, and the other time we swirled them the other way, and then we judged the wines as a result. Turned out I picked the right judges because really it actually ended up being everyone judged the wines exactly the same way, and then basically in the corner, like just they're cracking up. They got me. So the Coriolis effect. So this is 13 Santa Rita Hills. So I would say it is a generous, ripe, but normally cool year with a little bit. If you looked at a 10-year average, it would probably be just a little bit over the average of degree day accumulation. That means we were probably picking Santa Rita Hills probably from the very, very end of August to probably the third or fourth week of September. If you pick the wine a little bit earlier, you're going to get more cranberry, red fruit. You're going to have a higher acidity in your wine. It's going to be more elegant, restrained, and maybe even it's going to show a little bit more minerality because of the acidity, and it's the lack of baby fat. That's about 22 to 23 bricks. Pick it between 23 and 24. You're going to still have elegance, great acidity, a little more richness, a little more color. I think the magic really happens in the Santa Rita Hills between 24 and 26 bricks. That gives you a wine between 13.5% and 15.5% alcohol. If the wine comes in at 26, I would probably acidulate a little bit of spring water, add it to the wine, take it back down to about 24.5, so the wine doesn't go over 15% alcohol, which is generally my idea. I don't really care about a number. If it's 15% alcohol, maybe it tastes awesome, maybe it tastes hot. I've had 16.3% Clos Pepe Pinot Noir from Brewer Clifton that showed amazing elegance and restraint. 16.3. So I always say alcohol is just a number, but it's a number that matters for me. So as a result, I'm going to look to try to keep the alcohol under 15%. One reason why is we did a test in 2015 where part of our contract at Clos Pepe, which was the greatest contract in the world, is that we were contractually able to ask for 2 cases of every wine made from our vineyard. So our library was deep. We had every wine ever made from Clos Pepe. So 2015s came out, I think early 2017, we put like, I think it was 12 or 15 Clos Pepe, or I think it was nine Clos Pepe Pinot Noirs, including a really cool program that this was actually 2005. Excuse me, I was going in 2015. 2005. So in 2007, we tasted the 2005 vintage. Adam Tolmack from the Ojai Vineyard, one of my favorite winemakers in the world. He actually did an early pick and a late pick. And actually, before he blended them, he took like 10 cases of each out of the lot and bottled and stamped for his wine club, early pick Clos Pepe, late pick Clos Pepe. So we had both of those wines. We had the Ken Brown, we had the Brewer Clifton, we had the Arcadian, we had Liquid Farm wasn't making Pinot Noir yet. We had Loring, we had AP Vin, Siduri. I said Ken Brown. Who am I neglecting? Maybe. Okay, well, let's just say that those were the wines. And what we found is everything like 14.7 and lower in alcohol tasted just like Clos Pepe. It had everything we wanted out of a Clos Pepe. It was the flavor profile, the minerality, the acidity just screamed, I am Clos Pepe, hear me roar. And then the interesting thing is exactly at 14.8 and higher, 3 of the wines, I believe, were higher than that. We felt that it basically homogenized the wine to taste like every other extremely popular, extremely expensive, high-scoring Pinot Noir being produced in the New World. Some reason around that 15%, we started losing the somewhereness, the typicity, the terroir. I am not saying this happens for everybody, and I'm not saying I'm not going all Letty Teague on you. I'm not going all In Pursuit of Balance on you. I think our own, for some group to say, we know what balance is, and screw you that are making high alcohol wine. You know what? Wrong. We're all in pursuit of our own ideas of balance. Some people I know, they think balance is a 16.3 alcohol Pinot Noir, and they love it. That is balance to them. They love it. It tastes balanced in their mouth. It should be celebrated. I don't believe there's a right style of making wine. I don't believe there's a wrong style of making wine. Thank goodness. I mean, we don't all want jazz. We don't all want orchestral music. We don't all want opera. Sometimes I want some Led Zeppelin. Sometimes I want some Bob Marley. Sometimes I want some Grateful Dead. Sometimes I want some Bach. Sometimes I want to listen to Mozart's Requiem and just cry my eyes out. Sometimes I want to listen to, the soundtrack for the Last Temptation of Christ, or The Last of the Mohicans. Just so happens my two favorite soundtracks happen to the word last. So, there's so many different styles. So let's talk a little bit about this wine, 2013, and we're day drinking, so I should put some wine in my mouth, right? So 2013, J. Wilkes Pinot Noir, sold out, Santa Rita Hills. Santa Rita Hills is right between the beautiful cities of Buellton and Lompoc, and really within the heart of that area, sort of tucked in between on the north, the Purisima Hills, in the center, the Santa Rita Hills, which works almost like a shark fin or a spine right down the middle of these two valleys. And on the south side, we're going to have the Santa Rosas, Santa Ritas, Purisimas, and then two east-west valleys right in between that pull the cold air off the Pacific Ocean, keeping that beautiful, the Santa Rosa Road corridor and the Highway 246 corridor incredibly cool. Average high temperature is around 74, 75 degrees in August. So you really understand just how cool and foggy and windy it can be out there. And boy, does the wind go ripping through those little east-west valleys. It is one of the windiest places I've ever been. And if we had any opportunity, we didn't have air conditioning, so we would open up our windows, and literally you could dust your whole house, open your windows, and in maybe 2 hours, you'd have to dust it again. It was just that crazy dusty. All right, so let's see how this 2013 is holding up after. So this has only been in the bottle 5 years, and I'll tell you why. Loamy cherry, kind of slightly dried raspberry, little baking spice, little candied orange peel, which is absolutely classic Santa Rita Hills. Some people always say that they get hibiscus tea. out of Santa Rita Hills. Hibiscus tea and candied orange peel are the two aromas that were identified as being purely indicative of the Santa Rita Hills wine about 15 years ago by a big company that was trying to identify like all these aromas and all these wines and all these AVAs. The organization has since folded. Maybe they were working too hard to identify and to justify and define wine. Maybe people weren't into that, but now, whenever I look for Santa Rita Hills, I'm always got that in the back of my mind. Is there a little candied orange peel? Is there a little hibiscus tea? And this is absolutely, it's cool because what we try to do with this wine is represent a wine that gives you an entry point to understanding the Santa Rita Hills. When we make a wine, we do not want to make an extreme wine. We don't want to make an incredibly lean wine. We don't want to make an incredibly ripe wine. We want to make a wine that gives you the opportunity to understand the normal flavor profile of that American viticultural area, which means we're trying to ride the middle ground because really the truth is always in the middle ground. Who found the Holy Grail? Who found the Holy Grail? I'll give you 10 seconds. I'm going to send you a bottle of wine if in the next 10 seconds I see who found the Holy Grail, and you're not going to have time to Google it. So if you don't know it, all right, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Nope. Percival found the Holy Grail. Why do I mention that in context of the Santa Rita Hills? It actually really matters. Percival found the Holy Grail. And here's the cool thing about Percival. What does his name mean in French? It means to pierce the valley. Why did he find the Holy Grail? Because he didn't look left, he didn't look right. He went down the middle. He wasn't focusing on the good, he wasn't focusing on the evil. He was focusing on the middle ground. Truth seeks the middle ground. The middle ground is always where the truth lies. And in wine, I look at it as it's my job to make the vineyard look beautiful. I think of Boogie Nights, Dirk Diggler. I'm going to make you look beautiful. It's a horrible thing to say in the middle of a tasting, but I want to make the vineyard look beautiful. It's not about me. It's about showing off what the vineyards can do and how they can be beautiful. So Percival found the Grail. I'm telling you, look it up. Let's see, that would be a Mallory. I think Mallory's King Arthur. If there's any Grail legend scholars on, you guys can school me. But I do remember, I think Sir Thomas Mallory's Holy Grail that Percival found it. Yes, I'm glad you're enjoying it. No, it was not Monty Python who found the Grail. In fact, they all got arrested at the end of the movie, and no one ever found anything. And I think the French people in the tower continue to tell them that their mother smelled of elderberries. This is really, really in a beautiful place. I wish I had an extra case of this. It's Now, why do I swirl the wine in my mouth? That's something I learned judging wine. If you pull a little bit air through the wine, it'll basically go up into your retronasal area, and you'll get a much more intense flavor of the wine, because what you're doing is you're integrating your olfactory lobes with your flavor receptors on the fillet of your tongue. So not only are all the flavor receptors firing, but you're pulling the wine in a vapor phase up into your retronasal. So you're really actually starting to understand not only the flavor of the wine, but simultaneously the flavor and everything else. I'm actually, I'll talk a little bit about the flavor. I think it's got elegance and minerality. I think, a wine like this, I would love to bring to Burgundy and show to some Burgundian vignerons that might actually say that Santa Barbara County, basically that California can't produce an age-worthy, elegant wine, because I think this wine, it's interesting because there's a little bit of alcohol in the nose this time that I didn't get last time. And maybe like a little black tea. And that's something I've never really smelled in the Santa Rita Hills wine. It's got the second time I poured it, it is absolutely completely different. Wines, as they age, change faster in the glass. I've had wines that were over 100 years old that literally started as one of the best wines I've ever tasted, and like 90 seconds later tasted like mud. So once the wine has a bunch of dissolved oxygen, it tends to be a little more gentle and delicate. And that's one reason I'm glad I didn't decant this wine. I actually cleaned my Venturi, and I'm actually going to pour the next pour through the Venturi and see how that impacts it. And as we do that and talk a little bit more about the Santa Rita Hills, I did want to show you this, which is my last bottle. This is my baby. So this is the last bottle I have of the first Pinot Noir I ever made commercially for Clopepi Vineyards, the 2000 vintage. So about a week before I made this wine, I married Chanda. So this wine represents the first thing we ever did sort of collaboratively as a married couple. So instead of going on a honeymoon, we got married on 9900. I thought as an ADHD poster boy, it would be good for me to know when I got married, easy date, and it's very easy to remember how long I've been married. Let's see, is it 9-9 yet? Nope, I've been married 19 years, and when it is 9-9, 2020, boom, 20 years. Pretty easy stuff. So we actually had a very small amount, probably half a ton per acre of some Pinot Noir. In 2000, we had some acreage that we kept for ourselves, and we made, how many barrels we make? I think we made 6 barrels of this wine. So that would be 150. No, it was 5 barrels. It was 120. I thought it was 122 cases. This is the last bottle that I own. Unfortunately, I learned a very good lesson. I bought some corks from a very persuasive person. The first person that tried to sell me corks, I bought them. And boom, I bought some really bad corks, and about 1 out of every 10, about 10% of the bottles were corked. So I made this gorgeous, I mean, it really is a beautiful wine, and it's still quite alive. I actually powwowed with my beautiful wife, Chanda, who basically is my new athletic trainer. She's running me in a weight training thing. Here's the deal. I figured, like, people get out of jail all ripped. Why can't I get out of quarantine at least, skinny with little bumps on my body? So I'm actually working out quite hard, and I need this wine so I can go to sleep and wake up tomorrow incredibly sore. But I did talk to my beautiful wife about this wine, and I wanted to say something nice about her. Generally, because it's our last bottle, we're going to drink it on our 20th anniversary. I was going to Coravin it and taste it with you guys, because I really wanted to see how a wine that is been in the bottle 19 years could change. But you'll have to wait, and maybe the day after, we won't drink a whole bottle of wine between us. So maybe the day after our anniversary, we'll taste it together. So here's a cool thing about this wine. One thing I mentioned about this wine is I didn't make it. So what the hell? What are we talking about? Vidal Perez, who was the cellar master for Jeff Wilkes, after Jeff's passing, Vidal continued to make the wines at J. Wilkes until 2014. The first thing that happened to me when I came on my first full-time day as the consulting winemaker for J. Wilkes, as well as the brand ambassador for the Miller Family Wine Company, was September 1st, 2015. That day, September 1st, 2015, I drove to Paso Robles. I went to Paso Robles Wine Services, and when I went in, I met with some folks up there who showed me around, and they showed me a room where there were 100 barrels, single stacked, all put away, basically all on the floor. And they had done this for me, and they had put another 100 barrels on the floor on a different part of the winery, just adjacent, over with a nice big a drain in between. I took a couple glasses and a thief, and over the next day and a half, I tasted all 200 barrels, and with chalk, rated the barrels. So if I thought the barrel was delicious, and this is from an basically a vineyard that you would recognize if I told you, but it was not a vineyard that I can disclose because of basically an NDA, because we got the fruit so cheap. We didn't want to put the vineyard name on the label, because normally this would go into a $45 to $55 Pinot Noir, and we were selling it for $30. So I went through and I used a system of 1+. So if the wine was neutral for me, I'm like, meh, it's okay. If there was a problem with the barrel, which was very few, maybe 2 or 3 out of the 100 that were reductive or funky, just not right, I would put a minus, just one line on it. If the wine was neutral, it was good, 0. And then if the wine was good, I did a plus. If the wine was really good 2 pluses. And if the wine was like, oh my gosh, we have to use this barrel, I would use 3 pluses. So very simple system. In the end, I counted all the 3 pluses. I got maybe 6 on one side and maybe 8 on the other, 13 and 14. And this was, all the way, at least a year after these wines had been barreled. So this wine spent almost 2 years in barrel, which is going to give it a lot more oxygen, and it's going to make the wine a little less age-worthy and be a little more complex and ready to rock right at that moment. So what we got going is that it's funny. My watch thinks, because I'm so animated, it thinks I'm Italian. It keeps telling me that I'm walking. I just hit 8,000 steps on the day, which was my goal, and I wasn't even walking. I think because I'm going like this, it thinks I'm outside exercising. So thank you all for helping me reach my exercise goal today. So in the end, I actually was able to went back to the 2 stars and recognized that there were a few more barrels that I liked better, like 2 plus. And so we took 10 barrels of a 100-barrel lot and a 100-barrel lot. 100-barrel lot is 2,500 cases. Pretty decent lot. We took 10 cases. So this is a reserve wine that we'd never put reserve on the label. This was just a barrel selection. We do with the other 90 barrels. We bulked them and sold them out as bulk wine, gone out of the cellar. And that was when I knew I was in a really cool company, is when Nicholas Miller was like, yeah, so, we got 100 barrels of 14 and 13 Santa Rita Hills. We want to make it a treasure hunter wine. We want to make it 100 cases, tasting room only when we open it, or really, really small production. Go out there and choose your favorite 10 barrels. I really took that seriously. So I'm really proud that this wine has stood up and is really showing some really nice Premier Cru complexity and chewiness. I wish all of you could be here and tasting this with me. It's really quite nice. And I will bring a bottle of this when we go to Vegas, because we are going to Vegas. You know this. Oh, maybe I've just had a couple people. I'm not supposed to look at, but I can't help myself. So a couple people are saying, I got a bottle of that. So I've got two folks who are saying they have a bottle. So if we do a Vegas trip, yes, we will maybe even have some 2000 Clos Pepe to taste. Could be September, right? If I told my wife we were going to spend our 20th anniversary in Vegas, she'd probably be a little bitter. It's not her place. Although, because she's in a wheelchair, she hasn't been to Vegas since her accident. So I would say that once she rolls around Vegas in a wheelchair, she might actually really like it, because a couple of her favorite things is really smooth sidewalks, really nice ramps. This is so ridiculous that she has to go there, and something also really, really important for someone in a wheelchair too. She loves to people watch. She's almost 6'1". She wore flip-flops and I wore lifts for our wedding, and she was still taller than me. I'm an incredibly lucky man to have a woman as tall and as she is. And I'm also very lucky that she looked at my 5'10" self and thought, yeah, he's a candidate. So it's all well and good. I would say that the earthiness of this wine is becoming more and more profound. I did want to see if I actually gave it some more air. Without a net, without notes, without a spit bucket. All right, Venturi. I love the sound. Listen. I don't know why I love that sound so much, but I do. All right, so I've just probably put an extra couple of parts per million of oxygen in this wine. Most wines are bottled at about half a part to 1 part per million dissolved oxygen. That's very low. If you listen to Michel Rolland and you give him $200,000, he'll tell you to put an air stone in your barrel or in your tank, and then bubble oxygen through the wine to make a high dissolved oxygen wine. So when you put it in a glass, it just pops. Also means that it's going to oxidize quickly, it's going to fall apart quicker, and it's not going to age. But in a culture where we don't really age our wines, Michel Rolland's got something going on. If you like big, fruity, bright, primary wines, oxidizing that wine before you put it into the market, if you do it right, can be an excellent sort of strategic idea. For me, I want wines to age. I want the wine to be a little tight when it's opened, and I want you to spend 2 hours watching it just blossom. Hours. That's what decantation is for. And remember, on this show, we decant everything when possible. Do we decant whites? Hell yes, we do. Do we decant rosé? Abso-freaking-lutely. Do we decant reds? Every single red. I would say 5 to 6 years in the bottle is kind of where I stop. I was a little hesitant with this because it spent 2 full years in the barrel. So it probably picked up, maybe it was bottled more like 2 parts per million dissolved oxygen. So a little more oxygen in the bottle, which means the wine's just going to change a little bit faster in the bottle. It's all about how much oxygen is in the bottle and in the cork, because there's not a lot of oxygen ingress between the outer atmosphere and the bottle itself. It's generally just the whatever is lurking between the cork, all the little sort of cork molecules. There's lots of gas in there, and that's sort of going to be moving in and out of the wine. But generally, the outside oxygen doesn't really get into the bottle very much, and if it does, it's a bad cork. Generally, the research I've read says that a cork finish is a hermetic seal, in the sense that it's a hermetic seal from everything from the cork down. So whatever gases, maybe there's oxygen, maybe there's nitrogen, whatever is in the cork, in between the cork cells, is going to actually have the ability to get down into the wine. But you don't see a lot of oxygen ingress from the cork into the wine. All right, so this one, I just wanted an excuse to finish my glass and pour another one. So this one was aerated. I'm finding that the wine, the more oxygen I give it, I don't think this wine is going to be better tomorrow. I think this wine should be opened, poured, and enjoyed over a course or two. I would say open and consume within an hour. I do have these re-pour stoppers, and it's got basically a seal on it. And when I open that seal, it opens it up to a proprietary material that absorbs oxygen. So once I open this and put it in the bottle, this wine will stay basically exactly the way it tastes right now for up to a couple weeks. I'm going to really put it to the test. And I'm also going to talk to you guys. The gentleman, Tom Lutz, I believe, that invented this has offered me, he found out I was talking about it on the show. And so he wants me to potentially show you these and give you guys a special discount. So discount up in the show notes. I'll put it up somewhere on my Facebook page. But these things they last for almost a month in one bottle. But if you move them from bottle to bottle, I would say 2 to 3 weeks to completely keep the wine exactly as it is when you put the cork, when you put this little cork in. What I do is when I open it, I take a Sharpie. This is not a Sharpie. And I write the date on it and I put it in. And then if I'm moving it all around, after 2 weeks or 3 weeks, I'll taste the wine, see how it's doing. If it's bad, I'll throw it out. These cost just about $2 each. So, for the same price, Keith Jackson wants some. This is going to be something cool, and I'm going to give you guys a promo code, and you can get 10% off. The more you buy, the cheaper they are, $75, and if you buy a big box, to less than $2, and I'll get you a 10% discount on that. So I will put that. I do have an email from Tom. I'll grab that promo code. I'll throw it up, and you guys can use these. Absolutely. All right. What else about Santa Rita Hills? What do you guys want to know about Santa Rita Hills? Let's see valleys that are pulling cold water off the Pacific Ocean. Some of the strongest winds, those winds are going to definitely influence the grapes by keeping the skins of the grapes cooler. So even if it's hot, the wind comes in, cools down the grapes a little bit. The dirt, Batella clay subsoil on the Santa Rosa roadside, a little bit more on a thick, sort of oily clay on the Santa Rita Hills, or on the Highway 246 side. Sandy loam all day long to elder sandy loam. Sandy soils, poor clay content, because the clay content is so low, the vines have almost no vigor. So the canes may only grow 2 or 3 feet per year, just enough to get us maybe 15 leaves per cluster, 1 cluster per shoot. Sometimes you can get 2 clusters per shoot in Santa Rita Hills. Might not always be the best idea. But the yields are generally pretty low, 2 to 3 tons per acre. The wind keeps everything, kind of beat up. It really brings around the idea that suffering makes wines better. And that suffering happens almost every day with the fog, the wind. It's a pretty brutal place to make a living as a Pinot Noir vine. But at the end, maybe in some regions you can get Pinot Noir clusters that are in the Santa Rita Hills. You generally get clusters, 7 clusters per pound was the average at Clopepi. So when I did a cluster count, I made my interns go out and count, 100 vines and how many clusters in every block, all 12 blocks of Pinot Noir. and then we would take the average clusters per vine, divide it by 7, and that would give us yield per vine, a yield estimate. So how many barrels do we need? We talk to our producers, expect 2.1 tons per acre so they can buy their barrels. I took great pride at Clopeppi in a few things. I think I might have been one of the first winemakers in the world to send out ripeness reports by email starting in 1998. I was sending out emails and actually developing a website in the 90s that would actually list basically every block with bricks, pH, and who was getting the wine. So 24/7, the winemakers could go over to the Clopeppi website, and they could actually see what was great especially for like Adam Lee at Siduri. It's very important. Cool. Let's see. I'm looking. Yes, I'm glad Dominic said that he doesn't, in his house, they wouldn't need anything that would keep a bottle of wine okay until the next day. Something tells me I'm very proud of you on that. Well done. Christy is saying like 50 degrees Fahrenheit. Excellent. 40 degrees in the Hudson Valley. Burr. Vegas. And Josh is letting us know that Michel Roland de France in Valley de Guadalupe on their 80-year-old Sauv Blanc vines, their Reserve Cab Merlot RP rating. That would be Robert Parker. Huh. Okay. Cool. Well, I mean, I'm never going to say that there's a right way to someone like Michel. The right thing by micro-oxing wine. That's just fine. Do whatever you want. Good to see Stephen Hall in the house. The Bat and Kill edit. Interesting. So is that Dan? Is that Kiev? I'm wondering. So Bat and Kill publishes Winemaker magazine. I've been a columns for small production wine. Backyard viniculturists. Viniculture, by the way, do you guys know the difference between viticulture and viniculture? The T and the N. Viticulture, viniculture. They mean two completely separate things, and they are not interchangeable. Let me teach you. So viticulture is the science of growing grapes for wine. Viticulture, the science of growing grapes. Viniculture is the study of growing grapes and making wine. Viniculture is inclusive of the winemaking process. Viticulture is not. So now you know. Cool stuff. What was the difference between Clopeppi's vineyard and Rick Longoria? So Rick Longoria is Fe Ciega. He named from one of his favorite bands. You guys can figure out which one. Stevie Winwood was 17 when he recorded Davis Group. Listen to that song and ask yourself what you were doing when you were 17. So I would say that Rick's vineyard is right above the Kargasaki vineyard on incredibly sort of high calcium soil. So I would say over at Fe Ciega, which would be at the very end of the road where Kargasaki is. I've been out of the Santa Rita Hills so long, I'm starting to forget the name of the roads. That it has incredibly high contents of diatomaceous earth and incredibly high. So, John, I would say that in general, the incredibly high calcium content is going to actually make the grapes at Fe Ciega even thicker than the skins at Clopeppi, because really a grapevine determines and decides how thick the skins of the grapes are going to be. Changeable calcium is available at root level to that vine. So Clopeppi had about 6,000 parts per million calcium, which is freaking gnarly. When I found out that there are sites over in Kargasaki, especially one of the Kargasaki sites right under a huge wall of the Monterey deposit, that was almost 12,000 parts per million calcium, which is almost too much. It gets almost to a level where the grapes can't even handle that level. And then I would guess Fe Ciega is between 8,000 and 9,000 parts. So I would expect those Fe Ciega wines to have incredible minerality, not because it's absorbing calcium and putting calcium into the wine. It's the thickness of the skins that really determines, and the skin to juice ratio, and low pH really that are the precursors for minerality. So when you have 10,000 parts per million, up to 10,000 parts per million calcium in the soil, that is ridiculous. In fact, if there was a Davis professor, if I had, if the ghost of, Winkler was here in parts per million in a California soil, he'd say that's impossible. Well, he'd never been to the Santa Rita Hills. And how cool is the Santa Rita Hills? I mean, it's so small and understandable. And I always say that Santa Rita Hills reminds me a little bit of Burgundy. So I'm going to say, to finish my thought, which I don't always do, John, I would say that Clopeppi might be a little juicier, might be a little denser. And I'd say Longoria's Fe Ciega is going to be a similar profile of density, but I would say I would expect character. And of course, Rick Longoria, winemaker that I am and always will be. I'm going to give Rick Longoria props for being one of the three greatest and perhaps the greatest winemaker in Santa Barbara County history. And also remember with Andrei Telechev. So the idea of Telechev, Santa Barbara wine culture, comes through the blood of Rick Longoria. So if you haven't had Rick Longoria's wine, all right, let's see if anybody. All right. So some people were talking about making the comment, which begs the question, does it make sense to do tests on wine before you bottle to see how long that they can stand having a little air? I didn't do that necessarily. Yeah, I agree, Jolie. Rick Longoria is one of the most humble men I've ever met. If Rick had an incredibly outgoing personality, he would be the greatest rock star winemaker Santa Barbara County's ever made, because he's so humble and quiet that he doesn't get as much attention as he deserves. So let's throw some love Rick Longoria's way, because he's an amazing winemaker and it's unbelievably beautiful. Yes, and Brett, if the fifth pick goes to the Niners, please tell me who they get, and please tell me it is a wide receiver from Alabama. And that's the last time you'll ever hear me say anything nice about the Crimson Tide. Unless I'm in Alabama and I did actually do a wine lecture in Alabama, and I started talking about evolution, and I got some looks. So I said, "Roll Tide," and everyone got back in a very good mood. Ginity gin. Down my throat makes me happy. Sapphire gin and tonic. So refreshing. So refreshing. Beautiful gin. John Brooks is in the house. Welcome, John. So lovely to have you here. We're talking a little bit about the Santa Rita Hills. And what have I not? Oh, I haven't told you the story about how the Santa Rita Hills became STA. So this is a story probably 3 or 4 of you know. Why did Santa Rita Hills go in 2000 when we got our AVA? I wrote the petition to establish the Santa Rita Hills with the help of Rick Longoria, Brian Babcock, the Melville boys, let's see, Eli Parker, who else was there? Rick Longoria, obviously, or excuse me, Richard Sanford, obviously, Bruno, Chris, they all played a part in it. We submitted the petition in 1997. We got approval in 2000. So we started labeling our wine. Notice on this wine, it actually says Santa Rita Hills. You will not see that on a bottle. In fact, that probably makes this bottle worth another $1 if I were to flip it. So the first year, 2000 and 2001, we all labeled our wine Santa Rita Hills because we thought, here we go. Got cease and desist from Ropes and Gray and Associates, which is a big, scary law firm in Washington, D.C. And we found out that the Chilean winery, Viña Santa Rita, was threatening to sue us over a kind of world copyright infringement that we were using their saint, Saint Rita of Cassisa, a 16th century saint known as the Saint of the Impossible. I did some research on Saint Rita, and man, so she was married and abused terribly. So when you see a statue of Saint Rita, she wears a crown of thorns, bleeding, to show the suffering at the hands of her husband. She was a wise woman. She got beaten and she left. It's like, bye-bye, and got the hell out. And where did she go? She went to the nunnery, just like, Polonius to Ophelia, get thee to a nunnery. Or was that Hamlet? I'll have to look it up. But she went to a nunnery, and she basically knocked on the door. Mother Superior came to the door and said, hey, I want to be a nun. And she says, what's your history? She says, well, I was married to an abusive man. I left, and now I want to dedicate my life to God. So Saint Rita was basically told, nope, no. You've known a man. You are not a virgin. You are not, you can't be a great Spanish nun with this history. I'm sorry. You need to go and dedicate your life to God in a different way. And it's one of those great European stories where she just basically plants herself on the front door. The rain comes down. Everything comes down. Mother Superior comes down again and says, Rita, why are you still here? I told you, you can't be a nun. She says, God has told me this is my fate. I must become a nun in Cassisa at this nunnery. This is my life. And the Mother Superior waited, and then a day later came back out and said, okay, well, here you go. Here's a dead grapevine in a pot. Make this grapevine bear fruit, and we will talk about you being a nun. So she did these impossible acts. She took a grapevine, the story is she took a grapevine and brought it back to life, and it bore fruit. And the Mother Superior was like, damn. And then, well, probably not. Darn. And then did the same thing with a rose bush. If you can get a rose to bloom on this dead rose bush, of course, she sat there, she nurtured it, she talked to it, she prayed over it. It produced a bloom. There was a third miracle that I can't remember, but that's why she's the saint of the impossible. After the third thing, the Mother Superior was like, man, God really likes you on this team. Why don't you come in and become a nun? And not only did she become a nun, she became the Mother Superior. And then she was basically sainted. So you probably didn't know that. So I was really pissed off that Vigna Santa Rita would claim that they owned the international trademark of a Catholic saint. Like, if they were, another saint, could I not put a statue out in my garden? I mean, what the hell, right? So we were kind of bitter about it. We were bitter. Richard Sanford was scheming in his perfect Zen mind, his perfect, he put on his bow tie. And if you've never seen Richard Sanford in a bow tie, he's probably the greatest gentleman that I've ever met. So mellow, so perfect. Nothing gets him too far out. I wish I could be as calm as Richard Sanford. He probably sleeps like an angel. Wish I could. So what happens is, without even telling us, after we got the cease and desist and basically like, don't use Santa Rita because we're Santa Rita. Why is Vigna Santa Rita in Chile so protective of their saint? Well, first of all, if you know anyone who's a Chilean, they are proud people. They are incredibly proud people. And it turns out Vigna Santa Rita was their Alamo. They actually had a battle that raged outside the winery because Bernardo O'Higgins, the Irish-born, half-Chilean, liberator of Chile, the Simón Bolívar of Chile, hid in a large oval, an oak oval, which is like a massive big barrel. They opened it up and put him in and sealed it back up so the Spanish couldn't find him. And he hid successfully and escaped Spanish capture in Vigna Santa Rita. So, it's kind of like the Alamo, but they won. They didn't have a great battle, but they kept Bernardo O'Higgins alive. And so they consider Vigna Santa Rita a historical winery of great importance and protect the name. And the Chilean government decided to also work with Vigna Santa Rita to make sure that our Treasury Department knew that they were going to make a stink if California wine kept calling itself Santa Rita Hills. So Richard Sanford, long story long, basically flies down, puts on his bow tie, flies down to Vigna Santa Rita unannounced, knocks on the door of the president, introduces himself. Hey, speaking perfect Spanish. If you've ever heard Richard Sanford, he's got absolutely perfect Spanish. He walks into the president of Vina Santa Rita and basically charms him and says, can we not spend $250,000 each to go at each other in international court, not knowing what's going to happen? Can we, as an organization in Santa Rita Hills, can we fly you guys all up to Santa Barbara? We'll pick you up. We'll bring you to Sanford Winery, back when Sanford was owned by Richard and Tekla, and we will have a barbecue. Chilean style, we will eat more meat until we start having the meat sweats. We will drink more Pinot until we get the Pinot sweats. And under the proper influence of beef and Pinot, we will work this out like men and women that don't need lawyers to make a decision what we're going to do in the international wine market. Guys are like, all right, Santa Barbara? Yeah, let's do it. So we flew all the Chileans from Vina Santa Rita up to Santa Barbara, picked them up, brought them out to Sanford, had a barbecue. And if you've ever been to a barbecue at Sanford, you know it's on. So we had all the food, we had all the wine, we were drinking, eating, drinking, eating. Okay, we had a little talk. We all decided, someone, I can't remember who, what if we abbreviated Santa? What if we were STA Rita Hills? And in on every wine label, we were required, we will change the AVA petition with the ATF and the TTB so that we are now known officially as the STA Rita Hills. They said, not only do we like it, we will pay Ropes and Gray, because they're already on retainer, they might as well do some work besides suing us. We will resubmit the petition and do the work to basically make you guys the STA period Rita Hills. As a result, anytime I use Santa Claus, STA Claus, Santa Barbara, STA. And if you look at a lot of the old California ranchero maps, it's all STA. STA in the 19th century, no one wrote out Santa. Everyone abbreviated. So I obviously thought it was pretty cool. So Santa Rita Hills became the STA Rita Hills. Of course, I'm continually and sort of eternally conflicted because as a young winemaker, I wanted to take the focus off Santa Maria Valley, focus off Bien Nacido, Solomon Hills, all the incredible vineyards up in Santa Maria Valley, which were just killing back in the day, and make Santa Rita Hills actually a part of the idea of California Pinot Noir. And we did such a good job that to a certain extent, Santa Maria Valley may have lost just a little bit of their patina because Santa Rita Hills became the cool new kid on the block because of a lot of great work by Greg Brewer, by myself, the Melville boys, Rick Longoria, Richard Sanford, Kathy Joseph, Steve Arrowwood. I'm sure I'm neglecting some incredibly important people. Obviously, Santa Barbara Winery, the LaFons, the Hubers, all these people that were my neighbors and my friends for so long. We really did a heck of a job producing some incredible ones. So that was pretty much it. And that's pretty much all I have to share with you tonight. Now that I have your attention, I will give you guys the 30 seconds of strictly commercial, as my friend Frank Zappa would always say. Here's the idea. So tomorrow night, we're not doing a Saturday tasting this weekend. My wife has noticed that although we thought in sparkling isolation that I would be working significantly less hours, I've been actually pushing my hours probably more than I did before this whole thing, reinventing myself, making sure my company knows that I'm working really hard and I deserve to stay gainfully employed. As a result, first of all, you guys have been so supportive of buying wine. Thank you guys so much. Really, really appreciate it. I would love to convert some more of you guys over to the wine club, and here's a couple reasons why. I want you guys to come in tomorrow, Friday, 4:45. I think I might even be on at 4:30. We are doing a Zoom hangout for all the people in the wine club. We've already got about 10 reservations, and I think we're going to probably be up a little bit more, but it's going to be a conversation. I think we're going to be talking, the official title is Secrets of Santa Barbara Wine. So I'm going to be sharing a lot of stories, just like that Santa Rita Hills story, about every crazy thing that I've sort of seen within Santa Barbara, some stories about some personalities and some historic stuff that you might not know, some stuff about the Channel Islands, because the Channel Islands were actually one of the most important viticultural areas in Santa Barbara County for a long time. We'll talk a little bit about that. We'll talk about some of the early progenitors. We'll talk a little bit about all that wonderful stuff, but it is wine club and invite only. So I would love for you guys to go to jwilkes.com or the millerfamilywines.com. Join the wine club. You don't have to buy any wines. You just join the wine club, and your first 3 bottles would show up in June. And by June, I mean, come on, it's easy. It's 3 bottles, and the discount is insane, and you get really great shipping prices. Everything is fine. Support J. Wilkes. Support what we're doing here. We would love to have you in. And if you join the wine club, I have made sure that Julie Hayek, our wine club manager, will email you. Everyone who joins, you got to join tonight to get the email tomorrow with the information. If for some reason you join late, you can always email me, whagan@jwilkes.com, and I will make sure that I'll send you the information. I'll send out a couple invites to people that have bought like 5 cases of wine during sparkling isolation, because I want to make sure that's celebrated. So I'll make sure, watch your Facebook invites tomorrow. And if you have wine and I don't know it, feel free to send me a message on Facebook or an email and let me know. It's like, dude, I deserve to be there, and I will look at that. We're really trying to focus, though. My boss, Nicholas, has really asked me, and this is the guy who let his kids shave his head and put MFWC, Miller Family Wine Company, shaved into the side of his head. So he's committed. I'm committed. I would love for you to show some commitment. Join the wine club. And I would love to invite you to hang out with us in Zoom tomorrow, which means you guys get to speak. I get to speak. We're going to be drinking. We're going to be talking, and really looking forward to it. So that's kind of what I have for tonight on day drinking. I hope you guys all had a good time and learned something about the Santa Rita Hills. I will finish up, and I will make sure that I have looked to see, and I did see some folks come in a little bit late, including Jesse. And Jesse, I haven't seen you since I'm out with Jeremy Ball. And Jesse is the kind of guy who's going to win a Nobel Prize in this world, digging wells for people in, let's see, where was it? Central Africa, Ghana. So Jesse, thank you for taking care of the people in Ghana. Really appreciate that. And Allison, thank you. Will's been in the house, talking to Carolyn. Sandy Hightower, thank you so much for our rescued greyhounds. We got to actually take care of Trent Reznor, who lead singer for you know Trent Reznor, right? Gosh, I've completely lobotomized myself with gin. Trent Reznor's, we got to actually take care of Trent Reznor's greyhounds when he was on tour, which I thought was really cool. Thanks to Sandy Hightower. So thanks, Sandy. And we'll be ready for another greyhound in about 4 years. And thank you for being here, John Brooks. Always a pleasure, sir. And really, really do appreciate Stephen being here. And I still want to know, who is it? I always want to know, Stephen and everybody else. Brett and everyone here. I'm looking at Al. Thank you so much for popping in and out. I'm dreaming on. Good luck stopping me dreaming. Hendrick's Gin? Frick yeah. I mean, Boodles, Hendrick's. All right, best gin in the world. I'm just going to go ahead and say my favorite gin in the world, and you may have heard me say this on the show before, is from Chicago, Illinois. And it's from the Leatherby Distillery. And it is definitely the Leatherby Autumnal Gin, which is supposed to sort of represent the flavors of entropy. They have a vernal gin that shows all the lovely sort of growing things. But you know me, I love old wines that are falling apart and dying. I like to forensically put a wine back together so I can understand what happened with the viticulture. So as a result, Leatherby Autumnal Gin, if you ever have don't blend it, don't make a gin and tonic, don't make a martini, drink your Leatherby Autumnal Gin. And the crazy thing, it's only $30 a bottle, and I would pay $80. It's damn good. So that was something I wanted to bring up. Benham's Old Tom Gin. Hamlet. I guess that would be a gin too. Whole new appreciation for Richard Sanford. An amazing guy. Difference between Rio Vista and Kargasaki. Wow, Rio Vista's on the edge of the east side. We might have even made a mistake, including the area where Rio Vista is, because we extended the Santa Rita Hills on the north, on Santa Rosa Road, all the way out to where Rio Vista is. And as a result, when Pence kind of hired a person to try to expand the Santa Rita Hills, big surprise, to include his vineyard. He used the idea that we pushed the AVA in the north farther than the south. And we did that on purpose because the tortuous path of the strong winds exists far more north than south. So maybe that was a mistake. Do I believe that the expansion of the Santa Rita Hills has weakened the message and the typicity of the Santa Rita Hills? Yes, I do. Do I hold any grudge against it? Depends on how much I've been drinking and how honest I am. But I try to be open and understand that now that the decision has been made to include the Pence Vineyard in the Santa Rita Hills, that decision is made and we can't go back on that. We could spend a bunch of money and try to fight it in federal court. Screw that. Why don't we just shake hands, welcome Blair and his crew to the Santa Rita Hills, and move on with what the wine industry should be, which is to shake hands, sit across the table, drink wine with people, make connections, and show kindness and compassion. So, you know what? If I'm angry, I've failed. It's over. Santa Rita Hills is not what it used to be. It's probably not as pure style as it used to be. So be it. Let's make the Santa Rita Hills something fun. I don't really have much invested in the Santa Rita Hills anymore. I really hope at some point I'll be part of Clopepi again. I just don't know if that'll happen. If it does, how stoked will I be? Awesome. Awesome. All right, let me see. Difference. Yeah. So, they're both on the south side, but remember, Kargasaki is going to be probably 5 to 7 degrees cooler, at least during a hot summer day. So Rio Vista is going to show a lot more of the warm climate character. Kargasaki is going to show a lot more of the cool climate. Although I haven't heard much about Kargasaki Vineyard in the last 5 years. I've heard that it's not producing wine of the same quality that it used to, but I'll let you guys say it. You never heard that story, Barbara? Barbara runs the Santa Rita Hills Wine Alliance. I'm so stoked you got to hear that. I'm glad. I love that. Oh, thank you, Brett. Well, if you're not a storyteller, you got to be a storyteller. Good. Oh, by the way, you can use Santa. You can spell Santa Rita Hills in anything that's not a wine bottle. So if you're writing an article about Santa Rita Hills in the Wine Spectator or Robert Parker, you can actually write out in the title of the wine, in the review, would have to be, Clopepi Vineyards, STA Rita Hills, 2013, alcohol, whatever. Now, in the actual text of the tasting note, within the Santa Rita Hills, that's perfectly legal. The only contractual obligation we have to the Chileans is to label our wines as STA Rita Hills. And also, I believe that the appellation cannot be larger font than the varietal. Those were the two stipulations. Oh, yes. Hubers and Babcock. Oh, thank you. Oh, great, Keith. I think Nicholas called some people today that had bought some wine on the show. And thank you, by the way. My job is safe because some of you said some really nice things about the show. And Nicholas actually contacted me today and said I'd called some folks that had bought some wine on the show, and they had some nice things to say about it. So thank you for keeping me gainfully employed. I love that. 9 Inch Nails, thank you. By the way, I have to give one quick last 9 Inch Nails story. I saw 9 Inch Nails in, what was that, 96 maybe, at Lollapalooza with Body Count, which was Ice-T's punk band. Jane's Addiction, who I've seen Jane's Addiction like 7 times. It was by far the greatest Jane's Addiction set I've ever seen, including a 22-minute 3 days that might be one of the greatest live performances I've ever seen of any song. It was so long, Perry Farrell left the stage for 10 minutes. It was unbelievably incredible. And Nine Inch Nails played that show, and Susie the Banshees. I never heard Susie and the Banshees live, and I never really heard anything except maybe like a couple of their hits, but Susie killed it. I saw all these bands I'd never seen that just killed it. Living Color killed it. Nine Inch Nails hit the, and I was uninterested and unimpressed. And then I remember they were all trying to like get into it because the crowd wasn't really into it. And the keyboardist was playing on some song, I don't even remember the name of it. And he got a little too far into it, and he knocked his entire Roland keyboard off of its stand, and it fell to the ground. It did not make a sound, and the keyboard within the song kept playing exactly as it was. So he wasn't even playing his damn instrument. And Jason Green, the guy I was with at the time, we all started heckling from the audience, yelling, "Play your own damn instrument." So Trent Reznor, I love your dog, but dude, come on, make sure you play live music. Live music should be live. I'm just saying. So not an absolute huge fan. All right. Carl, thank you so much for your support and buying the case. We really appreciate it. Love it, love it, love it. Great value wines. I'm really glad, Dominic, that you've been enjoying the wines as well. What's the history about leaving Clos Pepe and moving J. Wilkes? I'll give you the inside scoop. So 2014 was an incredibly difficult vintage because of some employees we had. An employee we had at Clos Pepe. I will not mention who it was, but this employee decided that smoking methamphetamine would be more interesting than being a really dedicated winemaker. I decided to do everything I can after there was some difficulty with this person going after my wife. I decided to really work to get him out of the cellar. There was some disagreement in the family about priorities. My priority has always been safety. My priority has always been making the best wine and focusing in on that. There was a disagreement within the family. I told the family that I would rather have a good family relationship. If we couldn't agree on this, that I would be leaving the vineyard. So I would finish the 2014 vintage, hang up my hat as vineyard manager and winemaker at Clos Pepe, that I would leave the property, which was my home with all my dogs and all my sheep, and my wife and I would leave and start a new life someplace else. So generally, I would say that the answer is Steve and Kathy were really, really stressed out at Clos Pepe as a result of a lot of the things that were happening in 2014. Chanda and I really wanted them to have a proper retirement. So they leased the vineyard for 15 years to Catherine Hall in St. Helena, California. Catherine Hall became the official leasee of the Clos Pepe vineyards until 2030. So until 2030, Clos Pepe is basically farmed, and all the fruit goes to Catherine Hall and whoever Catherine Hall wants to sell fruit to. And then in 2030, that lease is broken, and the Clos Pepe vineyard comes back into the Hagen Pepe family. And at that point, we have to decide sort of what's going on with it. But I remember, I was up at a Paso Robles event sitting next to Nicholas Miller. I gave a lecture on the history of wine. He seemed to really like it and said, "Hey, we're kind of looking for someone to fill a position at the Miller Family Wine Company. Do you want to interview?" So I said yes, thinking what he was going to have me do is write an AVA for the Tepisque bench of Santa Maria Valley to separate really the hillside plantings of Santa Maria Valley as opposed to the flat, sort of more sandy soil. So I got ready, brought my maps, and surprisingly, he's like, had no interest in me writing an AVA petition. He was like, "Hey, you want to be the winemaker for J. Wilkes?" I'm like Jeff Wilkes' label? Oh my gosh, Jeff, I love Pinot Blanc. I loved his Chardonnay. I loved his Pinot. I'd love to carry on the tradition of that. So it was a little weird because Clos Pepe really was about, I was a very important part of Clos Pepe, even though Steve Pepe's name was part of that. So both of the labels that I've made wine for have been named after someone else, even though I've been the name. So it sublimates me a little bit, but I'm perfectly happy with that. As long as I get to make wine, make a living, get on and talk to all you fine folk. You guys are awesome. So appreciate that. Nope. You know what, Jolie? I'm happy to share. I mean, it's a short but long story. It obviously goes much, much, much deeper than that. But it really is a matter of me wanting a fresh start, me wanting to leave. Isn't it weird? Like multi-generational professions in the United States are almost considered a failure. I mean, if you stay on and do what your parents kind of like wanted you to do and go second generation on anything, second generation lawyer, second generation bartender, second generation owner, second generation anything. As an American, as a French person, well, of course you're going to stay on at your family's vineyard. 9 generations, 10, 12 generations deep. Makes perfect sense. In America, we're expected to run off and join the circus. Go to college, get the hell out and start your own life and be 100% independent. I really enjoyed for 20 some years, being a part of Clopepi. It was something I'm incredibly proud of. How lucky I was, even though maybe there was some hard feelings at the beginning. I look back and say, thank you, Steve. Thank you, Kathy, for giving me the opportunity and paying the price, millions of dollars, for me to go to school and learn how to make wine for all you fine folk. So, I mean, even though maybe I was a little more bitter, at how things played out and that I couldn't be at Clopepi, that I lost my house, I lost my truck, I lost my sheep, I lost my dogs. And we lost kind of everything. We had to basically be working on basically sweat equity for a long time. We had to reinvent ourselves. The fact that we successfully reinvented ourselves, we have a home, we're paying our mortgage, we feel like adults, which may be not surprising to you, but how interesting that I finally feel like an adult when I'm 50 years old. I'm now 51, but I definitely felt like an adult by the time I turned 50. So let me see what else we're going on. I think we did the right thing too. We've got some really interesting stuff going on. John Slater asked me a question that I'm going to probably turn into an entire thing about oxygen and Bordeaux winemaking, that old Bordeauxs from the 40s and 50s had much higher dissolved oxygen, but those wines lasted 50, 60 years, sometimes 70, 80 years. So what the hell? I'm going to have to do some research. I do not seriously want to give you some just off the cuff answer, but the one answer I would give you, John, is that terroir matters. And that if you are growing, a Cormigian deposit follows basically the curve of all of the first growths. So there is a certain soil-based ideal for the greatest Bordeaux wines in the world, that they are somehow blessed by nature and providence to have the ability to, since 1855, they have been recognized as vineyards that have some magical quality. And if there's not magic in Bordeaux, there's no magic in Grand Cru Burgundy. There's no magic in Dun Howell Mountain. There's no magic in 2000 Clopepi. There is dirt matters and dirt don't lie. If you ever watch Futurama, which is one of my favorite shows, Professor Farnsworth says, dirt don't lie. He says, I'm old as dirt and dirt don't lie. So I actually gave one of my friends the idea of dirt don't lie. He made t-shirts. Damn it if he didn't copyright it. So now I can't even use dirt don't lie besides now. But hey, dirt don't lie, copyright. So it's all well and good. Cool. Well, damn, if I said we were doing 45 minutes and we did an hour. So super, super stoked that you guys all spent some time with me. Join the wine club. This is superliminal advertising. Superliminal is join the wine club. So I would love to have you join, get in the Zoom tasting tomorrow. Let's talk about the secrets of Santa Barbara winemaking. I'll tell some other stories about the story I told about Santa Rita Hills, and try to get you guys feeling like you are part and parcel of the culture of Santa Barbara County winemaking. And that's what Wine Club's all about. We want you guys to feel like you're part of something special. So do consider it. Really stoked if you do. And regardless, let's continue day drinking together. So other than that, for the folks not able to join the Zoom tasting tomorrow, I will be taking the weekend off, and I will see you on Monday. Looking forward to day drinking with all of you. So have a fantastic evening. Take care of each other. If you can't be with the wine you love the wine you're with. If you can't be with the one you love, call them on the damn phone and tell them that you love them. Call your mother. Tell her you love her. Call people, family, call people in your neighborhood, call your friends. Make sure they feel the connection, because we're all in a very difficult position, and we want to make sure that we're all happy. We're one, blah, blah. Hey, that's it. Day drinking, Wes Hagen, 4/23/2020. We are done. Have a fantastic evening, and don't forget to have a delicious glass of wine with whatever you're having for dinner. And remember, if you feel really, really conflicted, if you feel angry, in through the nose, out through the mouth, all things are transitory and all things will pass. Let's be kind to each other. Let's be compassionate, and let's focus on as much flourishing in this world as we can. Let's take care of the people that need it. And let's make sure that we live in a world that we would want to pass along to our children. Heaven is a place we should leave for our kids. And I will leave you with that. Have a fantastic evening.